Good evening. My name is Sister Kathleen Duffy, and as president of the American Teilhard Association, as well as director of the Institute for Religion and Science at Chestnut Hill College, I'm pleased to welcome you to this evening's program, and a particularly warm welcome to those who are here for the first time. The American Teilhard Association was established 57 years ago in 1967 to extend knowledge of the cosmic vision of Teilhard de Chardin, to encourage its critical study, and to apply his thought as we examine humanity's place in the cosmos as well as in our evolving world. I encourage you to become a member of the organization. You can find the website. It was on the PowerPoint that we just played, but it's also in the chat if you would like that. Also, my email is there in case you need to be in touch. The Institute for Religion and Science, a regional center exploring science and spirituality, was established 13 years ago in 2011 to promote the constructive engagement of religion and spirituality with science and technology, and to encourage a dialogue that is interfaith, multi-science, and civil. To this end, we sponsor lectures, reading circles, conferences, and other programs. On both websites, we have videos of our past events. And so it would be good to sign up for the Institute's mailing list if you haven't been on it. And you can just send an email to me. So this evening, we will proceed in the following way. After I introduce our presenter for this evening, Sister Kathleen will lead us in prayer based on her book, Teilhard de Chardin, The Book of Hours, a book of hours. A book that's really very wonderful, and I hope everybody after tonight will, go out and get a copy. And I think tonight's program will give us an idea of how to use that book too, which is very helpful. So then we will take time to gather in breakout rooms after we have time for prayer. And the breakout rooms will be a brief sharing around the theme of our prayer. And when we return to the main room, Kathleen will continue the prayer and then open the floor for responses and questions. So these we ask you to place in the chat, and we'll try to monitor them. So this evening, I am thrilled to have with us Dr. Kathleen Noon Degnan, CND, artist, musician, theologian, and mystic, to lead us in a ritual at prayer in the cosmos with Teilhard. Kathleen is a sister of the Congregation of Notre Dame, professor emerita of religious studies at Iona University, with a master's degree in the history of Christian spirituality and a doctorate in historical theology, both from Fordham University. She has been active in the American Teilhard Association, has founded the Thomas Berry Forum for Ecological Dialogue at Iona, which she convenes monthly, and she serves as founding director of the Dignan Institute for Earth and Spirit. Her publications include Christ Spirit, the Pneumatological Eschatology of Shaker Christianity, When the Trees Say Nothing, Thomas Merton's Writings on Nature, Thomas Merton, A Book of Hours, and Teilhard de Chardin, A Book of Hours, with Libby Osgood. Her latest book, Thomas Berry, A Book of Hours, is in press, and we hope to see it shortly. Kathleen has also published numerous articles on integral ecological spirituality. Throughout the years, Sister Kathleen has been involved in a number of societies. She is president emerita of the International Thomas Merton Society, founder of the Merton Contemplative Initiative at Iona College, co-founder of Schola Ministries, a project in service to the contemplative and liturgical arts, which has produced a dozen compact discs of her original sacred songs that are available, by the way, freely on YouTube. Kathleen sits on the board of the Thomas Berry Foundation and has served as the Teilhard cultivator for the Guild for Spiritual Guidance. And so in her spare time, which she doesn't have much of, she comes to help us out and to, share her wonderful gifts with us. So really blessed to have Kathleen take time from that busy schedule to lead us in prayer this evening. So please join me in welcoming Sister Kathleen Dignan to the American Teilhard Association.
Thank you so much, Kathy Duffy. Thank you to all of you good people who have taken some time out this evening to be together. I can't really promise that I'm going to lead us in a Teilhardian prayer in the design of the glorious book that Libby and I were blessed to be able to create together. But I would like to bring us into a contemplative submersion, so to speak. I'd love us just to sink tonight into a Teilhardian field that might awaken in us that energy that obviously already courses through each of us, or we would not be on this program this evening, what Teilhard has called the mystical ambition. So, my friends, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to do something, in a sense, experimental, in the sense that it's not going to be a simple rehearsal of a lovely Vespers from the beautiful Book of Hours that my sister and I were able to create over a year as we did a really, really deep dive into the contemplative writings of Teilhard with this very special lens. It was not a lens of academic interest. We were not particularly interested in, well, Libby was, of course, she's a scientist, in Teilhard's scientific vision, but I was most fascinated and intrigued by the great desire of Teilhard to be the spiritual guide of the 21st, well, the 20th century and on. And it is that Teilhard that I would like to engage with this evening. So if we might, let's take a moment to prepare ourselves for moving into his spirit. I'll simply share with you the poem.
Okay, that's
It's
good.
a poem that is in itself, I believe, a canticle. And it begins by saying, earth marries air, air marries fire, and fire marries the sea. In the great consummation of all of creation, in the body of divinity, sun weds the moon, moon weds the stars wed the deep fields of empty space, and all forms of being are bathed in the love light, the rapturous glow of the hidden face. It's my canticle to the mystery of cosmic espousals, I suppose you could say, and how we are ever immersed, ever being summoned to this great wedding feast, to the celebration of the mystery of the profound unity of this universe. And it was Teilhard, of course, who became the evangelist of this profound perspective, that it was through Terra Mater, through the beautiful earth, Mother Earth, and through her that we would come to Christ Jesus in his Catholic Christian parlance, above all things, to Terra Mater above all things. So this evening, in a sense, I'm inviting all of us, myself, all of us, into a contemplative examen, so to speak, of, in a sense, the mystical pulse, taking some sort of careful recognition of the strength of the mystical pulse beating in us, taking stock of the mystical breath breathing in us. In other words, how strong is that mystical life to which Teilhard called us? What awakens it? And how deeply are we giving ourselves to it? We see Teilhard, or hear Teilhard, inviting us in this evening hymn to establish ourselves in the divine milieu. And we all know that that is Teilhard's signature ground. This is the place that Teilhard discovered for his life, to live there, to be there. And this divine milieu is no other place than the very, very vibrational field in which, on which, through which we all move into existence. And so, as Teilhard would invite us this evening to really become more aware of this field, which is our home ground. And I think more than ever at this particular moment in the life of our world, in the life of our earth, in the life of our planet, of our human species, we are being called to a vibrant, fierce modality of consciousness that was resplendent throughout Teilhard's vision, writings, his evangelical work that he labored to do with us. This particular slide that I have up before us, this particular word of Teilhard's was perhaps the most arresting for me of all that I found in recovering, reviewing all of his work for over a year, which is, if you'll excuse the strangeness of my slides, the human soul, deeply moved by the harmony of this world, is vibrant with a mystical ambition. So I'd like to just stay there. I want us all to stay there with that remark of Teilhard's, with that illumination of Teilhard's, and just sit with it, shall we, for a moment? And let's ask ourselves the question, how vibrant is my soul with mystical ambition? How vibrant is my soul right now with mystical ambition? In so many ways, the phrase, the language is even counterintuitive. How could a mystic have ambition? And yet it is and was the work of Teilhard to activate this ambition. It was the one vocation of his life. He wanted to be this activator. He knew that he was going to do it in small groups, not unlike the one we've got going on this evening. And of course, through his writings, but his writings, of course, were under interdict. He didn't know if his writings would ever come to see the light of day, but they did. And they have more than inspired us. They have magnetized us to toward the possibility of what the human being actually is in this universe. So let's hold that as the challenging examen of our evening as we, in some sense, softly enter into dialogue with Teilhard. He beautifully says to us, "Take possession of me, my God, you who are more remote and deeper than all. Take to yourself and unite together the immensity of the world and the intimate depths of myself." I'm going to stop sharing for a moment because my slideshow is giving me agita. So let's stay there for a moment with Teilhard. And let's remember the moment that we are in. We are in one of the most challenging, perilous, and promising eras of the whole of Earth history and of the history of our species, if for no other reason that we are really arriving at a point of inflection, a climax point, where we decide as a species, and therefore as and for the planet, whether we will continue to thrive within the beauty and vitality of a once-in-a-cosmos planet, a once-in-a-cosmos species, for there's nothing like us, in communion with all other species. We're asking the question at this time in human and Earth history, shall we continue? At least in my part of the world, and I presume in the part of the world that most of us in this contemplative circle tonight inhabit, we have and are witnessing choices that are made, that have been made, are being made, not just in the United States, where I'm speaking from, but around the planet, where those, especially those in power, are making decisions that will generate an enormous, enormous era of continued suffering for the living earth. Teilhard is the evangelist of those who would build the earth. Teilhard is an apostle of a radically, how shall I say, athletic spirituality, a radically engaged spirituality, a radically political spirituality, a radically developed, highly developed and evolutionary spirituality. Teilhard, of all of the voices, one might say, and especially of spiritual, religious voices of the 20th century, he is the one who says we must engage ourselves in the arduous task of building the world. And I think most of us realize that Teilhard has come under some particular scrutiny and critique for being such an advocate of this technological phase that we are elaborating in our time. Many, many clear thinkers look back and say to Teilhard, you were way too enthusiastic. But what I would like to suggest to us is that we pay attention to his one admonition. Above all, and whatever the cost, become, quote, more and more conscious, unquote. We are living in an age that is in the thrall of human intelligence, but we're very willing to leave it behind in the future for some modality, some iteration of it that might carry on its capacity for an infinite variety of functions and manipulation of information so that we can progress and progress and progress. But the progress that this world is inviting us to, which is not the progress that Teilhard was inviting us to, is a material progress. And this is where those of us who have been inspired by Teilhard, which I think is, let's see how many of us are here, 81 of us at least, in this circle of contemplative reflection, we have been inspired to, yes, serve the progress, the evolutionary advancement of our planet through the servant work of our species, but not just for material advancement, for comfort, for ease, for lifting the burden of the physical realm. No. Teilhard's challenge to us is that we advance the spiritual capacities of the species. And my mentor, Father Thomas Berry, would say that we recognize in this great work, the spirituality of Earth herself and all her beings, which of course we are discovering, are we not? I mean, we're reading every single day. The New York Times, I think it was yesterday or today, said, don't call anybody a bird brain anymore if you mean to diss them. We're discovering the enormous intense intelligence of our avian relations, or of a fruit fly. However, I think the captains of the planet now, who are clearly in charge, are wanting to harness the genius and vitality of the living world and her species to advance the material progress of the human species. This is utterly counterintuitive and counterpoint to what Teilhard was desiring for us. Let me bring us back into our contemplative reflection. This is how Teilhard describes his awakening to the consciousness that as a human person and as a member of a particular species, he had a profoundly sacred vocation. Remember now, Teilhard is the young Frenchman who was so formed by his very pious mother and his naturalist father in a time when to become a Jesuit would be a mark of honor, not just for himself, but for his family. And so he did. And he was deeply, deeply trained and formed in Ignatian spirituality, which I think many of us in the circle tonight understand is also a very engaged and active spirituality, one that asks the contemplative, asks the Christian to, in a sense, take sides in a world that seems to be in the thrall of two banners. The banner of the world, however that's described in any given era, and the banner of the spirit. Teilhard makes his option, but it's not clear for him. Teilhard he is not a pietist. He can't simply embrace this Jesuit vocation to build the world without understanding that there is now a wisdom stream that is coursing through human awareness and understanding that has to be engaged. And of course, that is the wisdom stream of science and of evolution and of learning more intimately and deeply who and what we are, and therefore what is our vocation in the world. Here is how Teilhard begins to speak of his experience. Then the vague note and fragrance and light began to define themselves, this illumination that was happening in him as a young man. And then, contrary to all expectation and all probability, I began to feel what was ineffably common to all things, what I was sharing with everything, that of which I was an exponent, a manifestation. This unity communicated itself to me. It communicated itself to him. If we were doing Lectio Divina, I'd say, let's stop right there and hold that. In our mystical ambition, in our mystical sensibility that we are refining for the sake of our species and planet, can we feel what we are ineffably in common with everywhere? It communicates itself to us. And it gives us the gift of grasping it. That's what he says. It's remarkable. I had, in fact, acquired a new sense, the sense of a new quality or of a new dimension. Deeper still, a transformation had taken place for me in the very perception of being. Now, contemplatives that I'm presuming everybody is in this circle tonight, we know that contemplation and the practice of the contemplative life is nothing more or less than allowing the vibration of being to be attended by us. Whatever our practice. Sitting practice, breathing practice, walking practice, gardening practice, cooking practice, nursing my baby practice, making love practice, serving the poor practice. It is all about staying in tune and in touch with the vibration of being, the perception of being. Thenceforward, he says, being had become tangible and savorous. It was delicious. And it has come to dominate all the forms which it assumed. In other words, in the contemplative life, what begins to happen is like Paul, the scales fall away from our eyes. We no longer see the crass materiality of things. We see their palpable, numinous life springing up from a well of being. Being itself began to draw me and to intoxicate me. Let's pray this psalm that you can't see because my slides don't work, but let me share it with you. And then in a moment, I'm going to ask that we just take a minute or two to just rest in that contemplative vibration of being. Because it is that vibration which is the ground of all the energy that needs to be engaged, harnessed for the life of this planet going forward. When one is overflowing, when one is immersed in that divine milieu, the milieu of divinity living us, I would like to say that nothing is impossible. We have not yet reached critical mass of our species who live and thrive and abide there. And that's why the suffering of our planet continues. Because those who have material, capital, political, other modalities, informational, data, power, have engaged it for the service of human pleasure, power, possession. What Teilhard is talking about is something else. So let's pray this psalm that you can find in the beautiful Book of Hours. And the antiphon is simply, no one can compel the gaze of God. Teilhard says, a breeze passes in the night. When did it spring up? From where does it come? And where is it going? No one knows. No one can compel the spirit, the gaze, or the light of God. No one can compel that to descend upon them. On some given day, one suddenly becomes conscious that they are alive to a particular perception of the divine, spread everywhere about them. That's when one lands in the divine milieu. Teilhard says, question them, question the ones who have this sense of abiding in the divine ground, in the divine stream, in the divine flow, in the divine atmosphere. When did this state begin for them? Perhaps they cannot tell. All they know is that a new spirit has crossed their lives. It's no longer the spirit that looks out through the eyes of the limited ego, no longer looking for power and control to assuage our fear of existence, which is what really is driving our planet, and the cynicism of those in power to manipulate what is needed to thrive in the sentient realm and to hoard its access for those who have the means of access. Teilhard says this is what they'll probably tell you, those people who have just awakened to something more. It began with a particular and unique resonance, a resonance which swelled each harmony with a diffused radiance which hallowed each beauty. Are we not all losing our breath these days and nights looking at the trees against a blue sky, waiting for the rain, perhaps in my part of the world, looking at that glorious moon shining? Something haloing each beauty. And then for me, for we, the beholders, all of the elements of psychological life were in turn affected. My sensations, my feelings, my thoughts. He doesn't say this. I want to say it. My desires, my intentions, my promises, my work in the world. Day by day, they became more fragrant, more colored, more intense by means of an indefinable thing, the same thing. That vibration of divinity waking up in me, laboring to wake up in my species. We are in for the long haul, my friends. And many of us, as I know, if I take myself as an example, we have come to the brink of everything, as Parker Palmer would say. At 77, I don't begin the great work. I'm knee deep in it. At 77, I feel summoned to the deeper work of the great work to be done for my species. The deeper work, midwifing the mystical body of our species, which is really the mystical body of our planet. And if this sounds like a dream, let's think about the world we've generated. It is definitely the product of a dream. We dream our world into being. That's what everybody's investing in. Tonight, that's what's making everybody rich. Somebody's dream. We're advancing the progress materially of the planet. I want to just channel Teilhard and say, listen, we are they who are charged with generating the mystical progress of the planet. It may be a hidden work. It may be a work done in secrecy, but it is the work. And so if Kathy Duffy could begin to, have I been that close to the camera the whole time? I must be scaring you people. Kathy Duffy is going to break us into reflection rooms. And I'm going to share with you in the chat maybe some provocations, some prompts that might allow us to give each other really, really careful, reverent, quiet space for each of us to say or not to say whatever is moving from this contemplative examen in this evening's Vespers. It's really, we're just asking each other, take the pulse of the mystical vibration in you. How is it? Has the world overwhelmed it? Have you begun to lose heart in the world or in the power of the likes of us to open up those streams of compassion to make the world be new again? So I'm going to send this little memo to everybody. I hope you can. Did you get it, friends? No, because it's something is telling me that the waiting room chat doesn't support the file. So let me just ask you, here's what I'd love you to share with each other. Give each other safe space to just say, give each other the temperature, so to speak, of your spiritual life. What is nurturing it? What is making it falter? How can Teilhard and praying with Teilhard, this pathological optimist, how is praying with Teilhard going to enliven us the more? Encourage and inspirit us the more. I'm not sure about your circle, but ours was very rich, very, very rich. Forgive me if you were all anticipating praying through one of the hours this evening. I'd rather you buy the book and do it at your own contemplative leisure. But I wanted to voice what I think Teilhard wants to be heard saying. He wants to say, I am for you. I am a powerful, potent spiritual guide for the people of this age. I can lead you toward energies that you might not have even imagined could be yours. I just need you to spend some time with me contemplatively. And that's what this book of hours allows a person to do. It allows someone to be with Teilhard at dawn, in the daytime, at dusk, and then at dark. It's a beautiful way of simply letting, as a friend of mine always liked to say, let Teilhard's Dharma rain shower down on you. And you don't need to know anything about Teilhard. You don't need to be a theologian, and it might be a lot better if you're not. That can be enormously distracting and complicating. And there's nothing, well, he's got a high order poetics. Yes, he does. But there's nothing all that complicated about his passion that comes through every single word. And as Libby and I had the joy to try to design, a format for a contemplative pause 4 times a day, twice a day, once a week. Just allow us to be taken by that poetry. But let's just see if maybe let's take a pause, take a breath.
With the
See what
appreciation of the surroundings. And
let's see if we can have a few of us.
So there, they were all.
Sorry. A few of us perhaps just share. I don't know, what is the unit of energy called that one might have received from Teilhard through each other this evening?
A photon.
Thank you.
Science question. I was wondering if you really wanted a science answer. Thank you. Okay.
Let's see, raise your hand and
Okay. And there's a raise your hand button, which is better to use because I'm not going to be able to see all the pages. I can only see one page at a time. If you raise your hand with it's reactions, I think it says down at the bottom.
down on react, yeah. And Mary
And then here, Mary Ellen raised her hand.
Yes.
So, and see, then you appear up here in the beginning and I can see you. Okay. So unmute yourself, Mary Ellen and Kathleen, and speak with all of us. Yeah.
In Spanish, we have a saying, hay que poner su granito de arena, which means you have to put in your little grain of sand to build whatever is being built. So sandcastle, whatever you end up building, but everybody works together, and all the little pieces. Now, Teilhard said something somewhere about a stitch here and a step there and a building and putting a brick in here, that all the people that are involved all put in their little part, and then you end up building something real. And that's kind of how evolution really works. I mean, you're all part of it because what you do contributes to what everybody else is involved in, and it will result in a beautiful future, or could,
Thanks, Marielle.
So that's what I find when I don't feel I'm accomplishing much of anything, then if I can look at the little pieces that that I do accomplish, and realize that they're part of a bigger whole, that's okay.
Mhm. That's great.
Thank
So
you.
the two Mary Ellens, thank you.
Thank
Here
you.
together.
More-
Mara, would you like to share? Mara Prendergast?
Yes, I would like to share that my take on the experience of tonight. I realize that so often I diminish my spirit in the sense that I don't have the confidence to believe that, oh yes, I should let that spirit flow. And so it's
Mhm.
like suddenly something has opened up where it's like let things shut off the editor that makes things, you know, diminish, but open it up and allow the voice inside of me to resonate and to speak and to for me to even hear myself before I can begin to share it with others. But it's like there's a voice that's been struggling to speak for a long time, and it's like allowing that voice to come forth.
Mhm. Great,
wonderful.
thanks, Mara. You'll always have something good to share.
Laura, I think we have relations in common. I have Prendergasts in my lineage.
Oh, really?
That's great. Okay, Jennifer, Belair. Unmute yourself and we'll begin.
Yes, I am a Teilhard fan. I shouldn't say fan, but I've loved that book, and I've told you once before on a cosmogenesis or some other thing that I've got on with you, Kathleen. And I thought we were going to do some part of it tonight, so I brought it along. So slightly put off, but so glad you didn't. I so appreciated you have channeled something of Teilhard to me tonight that I get glimpses of in the reading of the hours, but something, your dedication and love and intellect and soul and spirit have just absorbed stuff from him that I haven't, whilst I'm so inspired and have got some of it, you know. So tonight was, oh yes, I feel so inspired to pick it up again and to not through the things that I find a bit of a block, or I didn't even understand when he would say building the world, I'd leave those bits apart, you know. And so yes, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you,
Jen.
Jennifer. I'm grateful that that has been useful because I'm coming through a patch myself of how shall I say, deflation, in the sense that we have all labored so hard for so long. And I think that we see tides turning right now. And we may be tempted to think that our work is in vain, or our work has no place, is not powerful, is not effective. And for me, when I want to touch in again to a power source that literally rejuvenates and revitalizes my capacity for perceiving deep time, this isn't not going to happen. What we are yearning for, the kind of redemption and creativity of our species, is not going to happen easily or overnight, because we are in such a technological industrial trance.
Mm,
It will take time.
mm.
I need the patience that Teilhard inspires. So thank you so much. Where did your lovely face go on the tiles?
Yeah, she moved.
Here you are, Jennifer.
Jennifer, yes.
You're coming in.
I'm in Australia, in
I
northern
know
New
you
South
are.
Wales,
Oh, that's
Australia.
great. Welcome.
you.
So Maureen has her hand up too. Could you unmute and share with us, Maureen?
Hi, Kathleen. Nice to
Thanks.
see you. I just want to share that I personally am so grateful for both that the Book of Hours of Teilhard and of Thomas Merton. I was when I came back from Japan, I was really what will I, how can I continue? I was so involved with Zen Buddhism and sitting and all that, and to find my place here to continue. And so the Book of Hours, both of them, have really, really put me back on the path. And for those people who sometimes try to rush through things, we tend to think, oh, it's dawn, I better pray dawn, or it's dusk, I have to switch over to whatever. I just wait for the one line, and that's it. That's my prayer for the day. And there's so many like that. I underline them. So this year, actually, I used Thomas Merton, the Book of Hours on Thomas Merton. So I'm on that book right now. But this one I used all last year. And next year's retreat, I'll start on this one again. But I pick it up. But every morning when I pray, it's interesting. I have a beautiful window and scenery. There's one seagull that flies past my window. And it's something about it that I feel it's the Holy Spirit, the dove. Yeah, that's my connection. I won't take any more time. I'm sure there are a lot of people who have lots to share. Kathleen, thank you so much for all of this.
So welcome. Maureen is one of my congregation sisters.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
I don't have my cross on right now.
Janet,
So Janet, unmute yourself and you could share.
I'm with Kathleen in the Thomas Berry group, and I'm talking this Thursday. And so I'm busy looking at all of the stuff we've been working on, but I did find a line from her book that I wanted to read from one of the Psalms on page 75. And then I'll connect it to thanking you for everything that you said tonight, you know. Heaven does not stand in opposition to earth. It is born from the transformation of earth. God is reached not by a draining away of self, but by sublimation. And as a science person, you know, I know what sublimation is. It's like the change of water into gas, right from, it's not evaporation, it's a different kind of a movement. And I just have to say that all that we have taken in tonight is that kind of acceptance that this isn't a battle and we can't lose because we are changed. By simply being together tonight, I am changed. And Kathleen, you've changed me. We've changed each other so that I never feel, and I can't say where this, I think I know where it's coming from, but I don't feel defeated at what's going on, although I'm disappointed. I go right out into Inwood Hill Park and I walk through the trees, and we had a fire last week.
oh God, yes, you did.
So I'm touching each one and saying, thank you for staying. Thank you for staying. It's that resilience that they exemplify, which, you know, comes from Teilhard, that idea that we're integrated with them. And when I do it, when I behave that way, I am changing myself with the help of God, and other people are affected. And so I just want to say that encouraging word. I don't think we've lost. I think we're still in it.
Hopefully, yeah.
And thank you so much for what you said.
Liz, did you want to say something? I saw your hand up a while ago.
Yes, and I put it down again because I was repeating what I already heard. But I wanted to say tonight was inspiring. You know, you talked about the vibration in yourself. And I honestly think without the slides and listening to your passion, which came through so fully and so completely, something more was transmitted to all of us. There was, I mean, in the small group I was present to, there was something deeper than we could put into words even. So it was perfect the way it was, and inspiring, and something works through us, whether we whether it goes the way we plan it or not. So I just really wanted to say thank you.
That's very generous and forgiving, Liz.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
Much. Thank you so much.
That's great. And
Oh, yes.
Maureen, did you
Oh,
want to, your hand is up, or is it from before?
I would love to just say something in response to Liz about not being able to say things. One of my colleagues from the Berry Forum and I went to a play at the Irish Arts Center this weekend. It was called Hot House. And it was a troupe of actors from Northern Ireland. And it was an outrageous musical about the end of the world, if you can put that together. But if you know the Irish sense of humor, that's the only way you could probably look at it. But anyway, in the midst of this, there was a sequence, there was a moment, a very, very, very deep moment where two of the characters who had not been able to communicate through their whole lives, a mother and a daughter, had no words for the breakthrough that happened between them. And so the clever conceit of this playwright was to say, when a moment like that happens and you don't have the words, just do this. And the other character did the same thing. It's true, we don't really need the words so much as we need the vibration.
Mhm.
We do need the energy. And I think prayer is about what aids us in sustaining ourselves in that milieu. Marianne?
Kathleen, thank you. I'm not familiar with your work, but I will now become so. The vibration, the term that you use, the vibrations of divinity. What came to my mind, ironically enough, I was in a doctor's office recently, and one of the things that he did was he used a tuning fork to check the sensitivity in my feet. And the thought that struck me when you used the term vibration was, after hitting the fork and putting it on the bone of my foot, my foot vibrated. And I thought in so many ways that the prayers of Teilhard and his whole philosophy is like having each of us vibrate to the other. So is kind of like that in a sense. You know, it's like a shared vibration because we touch one another without words as well as with words. So thank you so much.
And we're all somehow in the resonance of the hymn of the universe.
It's a beautiful image.
Beautiful image, yeah.
Thanks to Teilhard.
So Kathleen, I think maybe we need to end this wonderful evening. But I would just like to say several people who are here tonight on the call are in my reading group, and we've been reading the third part of the Divine Milieu, the part that you were really referring to. And we're reading it quickly and, running through it because, if we took a small passage like this, we'd probably take 5 years to finish it. But I think the way you treated that passage really was beautiful. So much of yourself was part of it. And made it just, and I'm sure, you know, if I had chance to, well, I'll ask them the next time we meet. But I'm sure that it was, you know, delightful for all of us. So thank you very much for that and for
Thank you.
your wonderful evening.
Friends, I've put in the chat my email, because if any of you are not on my list, my e-list for the kinds of gatherings that we do through the Institute for Earth and Spirit and the Thomas Berry Forum, we'd love to have you. We have circles like this several times a month under different banners. And what's happening, you know, through the ethereal medium of the internet is pretty powerful. So please join us. And Kathy, thank you for the invitation to be with.
Oh, thank you for coming, because I know you're so busy. It's, you know, there's so many things going on. But before we leave, I do want to remind you, if you're not a member of the American Tayard Association and wish to join, I did put the website in the chat at the very top. And it would be great to have you. And we too have these events, and you know, you'd always be welcome, being a member or not, but it's better if you join. And also if you want to be on the mailing list of the Institute for Religion and Science, my email is there. And just to let you know that tomorrow evening we're having an event by Mark Schultz, a psychologist from Bryn Mawr College, who's been his topic is the good life, and he's working with data that's been gathered for the last 100 years on what it means to have the good life. And I think that's what we've been talking about tonight, the good life, but maybe in a different context from the way some people look at it, those who are looking for the material good life. But you know, hopefully he'll be talking about the what do you call it? The spiritual good life. And then this year, just as last year, I don't know if, you know, and many of you are aware of this, but we had our annual event as a retreat at Dalesford Abbey in Paoli. So whoever could, you know, come to Pennsylvania and join us, we had about 50 people join us. And it will also be on Zoom, and Dr. Catherine Keller will be the speaker. She's from Drew University. And our theme is the environment, you know, the Tayard and the climate crisis. So, and we usually embellish our weekends with contemplation, discussion, music, art, and plenty of food and fun. So I hope you'll be able to join us. And so thank you very much for coming tonight, and we hope to see you again.